Hello and welcome to Unscripted, where myself, Katy Davies, and Sarah Atkins, we're both human design readers. We love chatting all things human design. So we have our little podcast, Unscripted, where we just talk about all the things human design that have come up in our world today. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. And it's been a while since the last episode. So quite a lot has kind of occurred, I would say. So we were just having a little chat about what we should kind of talk about. And there's almost like too many things, too many ideas and too many directions we could go into. But then you said something about actually you've been reminded that we can get distracted by all of these minutiae and like multiple different things that we could talk about. But sometimes there is a need to bring it back, to rein it back in and bring it back to basics.
Yeah, so a lot of conversations I've been having with people about human design, I've actually been reminding them of the basics. Like you say, there's kind of a hierarchy with human design, and it might sound a bit boring to go over that piece time and time again, like type, strategy, authority, profile. But actually, when you are working with it, there's a reason why human design readers and experts try and get you to do that piece first, because they are really influential, important pieces that when we align our energy with our type, our strategy, our authority, our profile, then all the other pieces, all the maybe it might seem slightly more exciting, the gates and the where our arrows pointing and our determination, like all those pieces have given me huge insights and huge things. But if I forget about my emotional authority along the way, it doesn't matter because I've just messed it up by making the wrong decision in the heat of an emotion. So as this is our first Substack recording, we do have lots of other episodes over on YouTube. I thought maybe we'd start there with like, what is something that really helps you? Because you're a generator.
Yeah.
And I'm a manifesting generator. What really helps you, and also maybe other types in your world, because I know you have the other types in your family. What's something that actually is really helpful for you to not forget about your type, your strategy, your profile or something?
So, and I got called out on this by other people, you being one of the people that called me out on this, which is the funny thing. I have a massive tendency to overanalyze and overthink. Now, this is not just because I've got an open head, open crown and open ajna. It's quite common with generators. So generators are meant to do, we're meant to respond. But one of the most common things, like we're meant to be in our body, but one of the most common things with generators is that we can go into our head and overanalyze. And that actually quite often causes the frustration, which is that sort of out of alignment energy that we have. And I had this literally a month ago where I was sort of looking at my business and sort of where I wanted to go. And it's like things I have been, this is the hilarious bit, right? So this year so far has been my most successful from January. 2026 has been one of the most successful starts to my year ever. So then I was like, but what am I doing differently? And I started trying to overanalyze and asking questions and and getting stuck in there, but I can't see what it is. Like I don't know.
Can't put your finger on how you can replicate it and do more of it.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's like, but why do you have to? Oh, maybe I don't. Maybe I just keep doing what I was doing at the beginning of the year and not over planning or overthinking, actually just following the response.
Following the sacral response.
Fancy that. And sometimes we need a bit of a kind of proverbial kick at the backside and go, what are you doing? Why have you started overthinking? I'd finally reached a point where I was just responding, and then I started questioning it. Why?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So by letting go of the overthinking. You had the best start to a year yet, but then it kicks in after a few months going, well, how did I do that? And literally started the overthinking, which was then ruining your natural, because all of human design is trying to teach us how our energy naturally wants to play out in the path of least resistance, kind of what works best for us. And that's literally what you were doing. So you weren't really thinking, you were following your responses. And then, of course, the logic, the strategy, the business planning type thing came in. You're like, right, well, I need to figure out what I did. What you did was actually let go of thinking about what you were doing.
Yeah. Which is bonkers, isn't it? But it's so easy. And I guess this is where I think it's important to share this, because just because we know about human design and we've been doing it for quite a long time doesn't necessarily mean that we always get it right ourselves. It's very easy to slip.
It's much easier for me to direct all my clients to following their human design than it is for me to follow mine, because I actually said this to somebody the other day. What I need is someone following me around in my life, pointing out my human design to me as I go, like, that's not aligned with your tier 4 profile. Don't forget you've got an emotional authority. Don't forget your manifesting generator. Don't forget, like, is that really aligned with that? And in a way, that's kind of what I do for my clients, not all day, every day, but a lot of them have voice note support, and they might say something and I'll kind of say, yeah, but that is or isn't in alignment with your thing. It's like, I need that too, because I forget my own design, because there's so much noise, there's so much busyness, there's so much, all these things, and we lack, like everything that I do, I say shut out the noise, which is why I love human design, because human design is trying to help me bring my inner voice to be the loudest and shut out the noise. But like you say, we're not perfect doing it, even though we help others.
Yeah, not at all. And it is quite funny because I'm being personally challenged in this myself at the moment with a particular client who is, I'm helping her with some energy work. And she's a very, very experienced psychic channeler, healer. So like I've got to try and quiet my mind chimp, because she was saying that basically she can't do it for herself. So she needs me to kind of do the work, but I'm just like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. She was like, you've got to stop trying to fix. You've got to stop trying to race ahead and looking for the solution. You've literally just got to follow the flow. And if something comes along, just say it and just follow the threads of energy and what's coming up. Like, don't try to rationalize it. And it's really hard because I've become very conscious of how much my head wants to make sense and rationalize things.
Yeah, me too. So my centers, I have the top two, the crown, head, ajna, all the different names, undefined, and everything else is defined. And so the noise and all the input here is always trying to, it's almost like it's trying to compete with what I know to be true. And I have a lot of that kind of energy of needing to understand and wanting to know, and I'm really having to try and let go of all of that myself and trusting the process.
It's quite hard though, isn't it? Because I think I've definitely worked hard on building up my self-trust, but, and I know you will understand this, I like to have reasons like why something happens. I don't know, I guess I liken it, you know, when you do, you've got an oracle deck and you pull a card, and most oracle decks come with a guidebook, don't they? And I remember when I first got them, I'm like glued to this oracle deck guidebook, like reading what the meanings are. And it's only really in the last year that I've tried to let go of that and actually just trusting what comes to me.
Yeah.
It's a great exercise. Like, what's your interpretation? What do you think it means? Why do I have to Google, or why do I have to look something up? Because actually, it might not necessarily be, because you look in these guidebooks and there's like multiple different interpretations, isn't there? So even in the book, it's not necessarily what you think it is. So it's actually, do you agree with it or not? It doesn't really matter. It's what my meaning is, and trusting the meaning that I'm placing on it, if that makes sense. But I guess it's another exercise in being present.
Yeah.
In terms of something happens, how do I feel? And validating how I feel, or validating the thoughts and feelings that come up in the moment, rather than trying to rationalize, because we're both emotional authorities, aren't we?
Yes.
And I remember when I read about that, and I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. Like, whenever I felt emotional or a particular way, like if I felt melancholy, or if I felt sad, or if I felt really happy, my mind automatically searches for a reason for the emotion. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I do it in a negative way, like, God, I don't know why I'm so sad, or I don't know why I'm so tired. But do I have to have a reason? Why can't I just feel?
That was one thing that I found interesting about the description of the emotional authority. And if you're watching this, you don't have an emotional authority. It's 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah,
Kind of 50% of us have an emotional authority. So it's a high chances you might live with someone, you might know someone, work with someone who has an emotional authority. The thing that, again, I always say human design kind of gave me the permission to stop questioning everything I always knew to be true. And when it's written on paper, like, we shouldn't need permission, but it literally says, as an emotional authority, remember reading this somewhere, you might just wake up one day miserable.
Yeah.
And that's
no reason.
There is no reason. You are on an emotional wave. And then at some points, again, it almost feels like disempowering, because it could feel like, okay, well, I have no control over how I feel. Like, I don't like that idea either. It's like kind of good to know that there isn't a reason for it. But then equally, I don't like this idea of I have no control over it. But over the last 6 years, I very much have developed the ability to be a witness to my emotion.
Yeah.
And so if I wake up and I'm feeling a bit flat, or a bit fed up, or whatever, it's like, okay, I acknowledge it and I notice it, but I don't know how to explain it until you're sort of in it and you're living it. It doesn't necessarily then control me and control my day. I just accept that. And it's almost like, by knowing that, having that acknowledgement, having that awareness, it's like, okay, well, I feel a bit flat today, but it doesn't have to mean anything. It's not like my life is spiraling out of control and I have to change it, because I know that at any point it will just change.
Yeah. And that's it. Like, you've hit the nail on the head. It's like, just because I feel a particular way doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong, and it doesn't mean it necessarily needs to be fixed. And like you say, you know it's not going to last.
Yeah.
And there is some relief in that.
Yeah.
That I'm just having a down day.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Because tomorrow I might be massively up.
Might be massively overexcited.
Yeah.
But again, navigating that emotional authority is again knowing that, okay, I'm super happy about everything today. Don't say yes to everything. Don't agree to everything. Don't like commit to all these things, because tomorrow you might wake up and go, oh my God, no.
I've done that. You done that?
I've done that, yeah.
It's when you also make the impulse purchase because you're like, oh my God, this seems like the best idea ever. I'm just going to get it. And then the next day you're like, oh, why did you do that? Like, you're clearly never going to commit to that, or you're never going to see that through. Like that, you just because you had the energy for it yesterday does not mean you got it forever.
Yeah, so I think that's why going back to those basics of like, okay, there's lots of other authorities. There's a splenic authority. There's, you know, different authorities. It's leaning into what yours is, because even though I know this stuff and I've been doing this stuff for 6 years, when that, as an emotional authority, when that wave is high, it is difficult to remember that I may not feel this way tomorrow. But the more you do it and the more you practice it, a bit like, you know, learning an instrument or learning to drive, or you kind of manage to make it automatic now that I question, is my emotional state influencing this decision for the better, for the good? You know, I always have a bit of a rule of thumb about buying something. Like, it's a sliding scale for me. The more attention I give the decision is based on the impact of the decision. So like, when I'm buying a car, I can't just rock up one day and just buy a car because it's the first time I've seen it. It's the first time I've thought about it, because I might be unduly influenced by the very sunny day, the very shiny thing and whatever. But if I've thought about that consistently for a long time, it doesn't matter really what the weather is, what the day is. If I constantly think, oh, I'd like that, oh, I'd like that, oh, I'd like that, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's, you know, do I want a cup of tea or not? It's like, okay, well, if I make it and I just don't drink it, who cares? So it's that sort of scale, isn't it? Of like, how much does it matter?
Yeah.
This decision and what mood I'm in and agreeing to things. I think if there's other people involved, again, I'm much more cautious. Someone invites me somewhere, someone will ask me to collaborate, someone wants me to do something. It's like, am I really excited? Would I still think about this tomorrow in the same way?
Well, do you know what? We've had a funny incident with that over the weekend, because the best way I can describe it is like kids' birthday parties, right? So with my youngest son, who is also an emotional authority, he got invited to a party like a month ago, which totally understand. You have to send out invites and kind of plan. And at the time, he was like, yes, absolutely want to go. And then, so that was yesterday. But then what we hadn't taken into account, obviously, is his emotional wave, but also the build up to that party that was yesterday afternoon. So he had a big school trip, which I helped out on Friday. So that was a long day. We went over to Wales, southeast Wales. And then he had a party, which was a bit last minute, but he was at a party most of the day on Saturday. And he loved it. He had such a good time. But then it meant on the Sunday, he was on a bit of a downward trajectory, like energy and like emotions wise. The party yesterday was awful. The party was great, don't get me wrong. And the people and the kids were lovely. But he couldn't do it. We went just to see how he felt when he was there. He lasted about 45 minutes, bless him. But there was so many big emotions and he got overwhelmed. He got really upset. He wanted to stay. He said, I'm really torn. So he's got a line 5 in his profile as well. He wanted to stay because he didn't want to disappoint his friend. But at the same time, he didn't want to be there. So he was like, what do I do? And I was like, okay, well, you've done 45 minutes. I think that is okay. We can go and sort of say thank you for having me. And how about if we go home? He was like, and the relief on his face. And once he got home, and he said, I think I just got really overwhelmed, Mummy. And I was like, and that's okay.
Yeah. What type is he?
He is a projector.
He's a projector. So that adds into it, doesn't it, as well? Like, so we always throw in these caveats of when you're looking at the individual pieces, the whole chart comes together. So, you know, as a manifesting generator with all of my motor centers defined, I've got a lot of energy to give. So I potentially might have lasted an hour before I got tired and overwhelmed. Whereas as a projector, that again in itself is a different energy. And how many open and undefined centers you have. So how much of other people's energy you're taking in. So the whole thing comes together to add up to, yeah, it's hard with an emotional authority because now I know that I find myself, other people could look at me as though I won't commit to things. And it's not that I don't want to commit to things, but it kind of is, because I know that if somebody's inviting me somewhere to go away for the weekend or to do something, and it's like in August, I'm very aware that unless it's a definite yes consistently, a lot of how I interact, how my energy is at the time, how it will depend on what happens much nearer the time. And so I do find myself not booking events, not booking things, because I don't, there's that other saying which I very much hold truer, I think, now I know more about human design, is what is right for me is right for everyone.
Yeah.
So if I force myself to go somewhere and to try and interact and to try and do something, when I as a 2/4, my 2, I'm completely depleted, I'm maybe in the low of my, it's not going to be fun for anybody else hanging out with me.
Yeah.
So as much as it's like we don't want to let the other person down, XYZ, depending on what it is, if it's a social function, I might go there and ruin the entire day for everybody else. So actually, even though they might be disappointed I haven't gone, me not going is best for everybody. But that's a very hard thing to do, because there is this sort of expectation of, well, I said I would go and I don't want to let people down and all the rest of it. But if you go and you're just completely burnt out energetically, not joining in, everyone's going to try and make you join in, or everyone's going to try and cheer you up, or, and actually can end up ruining the party for everyone. So it's a very interesting line, isn't it? Like, do you follow through with your commitments, or is it best for everybody but that you gracefully duck out?
There's a certain element, like you say, about expectation. It's kind of deemed selfish if we do things to suit ourselves, isn't it? It's like, oh, you're so selfish for not going, or you're so selfish for not sticking around, or you're so selfish for like pulling out of something at the last minute. But you're right, because actually, yes, you could follow through, but then make everybody else miserable, which is then also kind of deemed as selfish. So you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah. It's definitely something I think a lot more about in a lot of my personal friendships, relationships as well. It's like, well, actually, how will the whole look if I am there versus if I'm not there? And maybe they might not understand it, but I am confident that it's better for everyone if I maybe just don't go this time. And it's taken me a long time to have, and that's that self-trust piece, isn't it? It's like trusting it. I mean, obviously, when I had my previous business and I made wedding cakes, that's a different story. That's not an energetic, I don't feel like I'm just not going to show up and deliver your wedding cake. That, in those instances, that has a finite negative consequence on somebody if I don't show up and do my things. And I very much believe, actually, that, you know, I mentioned the 4 motor centers and I've got a defined will. I very much feel that center helped me run my cake business. Kind of like finding that extra power, finding that extra motivation, finding that extra ability to show up no matter how I felt physically, to do the job and deliver and get the stuff done on a timetable that wasn't mine energetically. Now I look back, I kind of can see how my human design helped me override some of the things to get that job done. But now I don't have that job, and that's not what I do anymore. I don't want to be in a situation where I have to constantly force and override how I feel.
But that's an important point in itself, isn't it? Because sometimes the reality is that we have to do things that we don't necessarily want to do, because we just do. That's life. But how do we balance that out with the things that are good and right for us?
I think, I mean, this will be we could do another whole episode on this one, maybe. I think what I've started to look at is, again, it's how you frame something. And there's quite a few things, again, in my personal life that I might not want to do, but I know the other person will benefit from me being there. And so what I kind of end up making is like, okay, well, I don't want to go, and I don't want to be there, and I don't want to do that thing, but I do want to support that person.
Yeah.
And so then you can turn it around to, okay, well, energetically, then I have the energy to support that person in the way they need. I think, again, work-wise, once I understood what happened, I did make a change. So my business no longer needed me to completely override my energy, because there's only so many times you can do it without burning out and without it actually impacting your health. So again, if you know that there is a situation where you are literally overriding your energy, you have to build in a buffer. You have to build in a recovery time. You have to build in a, as a 2 profile, I will build in a day of I'm not talking to anyone, and I'm going to be at home all day, and I don't have any meetings in my diary, and I allow my manifesting generator pottery aroundy day. Whereas if I didn't have that awareness and I consistently just had a diary full of things that was overriding my energy, I would crash and burn. And again, if you're a projector with maybe no motor centers defined, there's going to be a lot less ability to override your energy before you crash and burn. Whereas I potentially have a bit more ability to keep going before I crash and burn. So again, it's getting to know your own stuff, isn't it? What recovery time do you need? How many times can you keep going and do these things that you don't want to do before it all comes crashing down? And that's about getting to know yourself. And I think human design gives you a guide as to where to look for how that could look, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you answered that really well.
Did I?
Yeah. Do you think it's a good debate?
That's a bit, sometimes this maybe's gone a bit woo, but sometimes I say things and I don't feel like it's not me saying it, but it just sort of comes out. If you just asked me to repeat what I said, no idea what I just said, I couldn't repeat it to you.
That happens to me all the time.
It's not like, and I wonder if that comes from my 2. Or where does that come from? Is it channeled? Is it guided? Is it just from the subconscious? But it's like, I couldn't tell you what I just said.
No, but isn't that's one of the reasons we started these chats in the first place, isn't it? Because I think both of us have I can't remember which one it is, whether it's a right facing. One of the arrows we've both got is right facing, and I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head now. It's just gone. But sometimes we don't know what we know until somebody asks a question, and then the answer just kind of comes to you from we don't know where. Whereas if I try to generate the answer myself, I don't always know. It's one of the reasons that I voice note myself. I talk to myself all the time, because if I'm just sat thinking, I could just go round in loops and loops and loops. Whereas if I have a conversation, either with myself. I'm not particularly precious. I don't have to talk to other people. I can talk to myself. I'm just as engaging. But when I talk to myself, I can come up with quite often the answer because I can almost hear what I'm saying and I can come to that conclusion. So I ask myself questions all the time and just see what answers come up.
I wonder sometimes if that's to do with my gate 48, my resource, where the alignment, so in the success codex, and Cara's done it, so that the alignment cue is knowing that I just know, and it's trusting. I just know. Do you have 48 as well?
I have 48, yeah.
I sometimes wonder if that is that gate. It's like this, just knowing and having this depth of knowledge and this thing, and it just comes out when it's needed. But yeah, I find that as well. I voice note a lot of my clients because having the defined throat, I find that works so much easier for me sometimes, just talking. And sometimes I'm voice noting my clients in response to what they've said, and I get to the end, I'm like, I think that was really good, but I've no idea what I just said.
But I've done that. Do you know, it's funny because I delivered a workshop for my husband's organisation last year. And I was like, they were asking me questions and I know I'm talking. I feel like I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. So if I let my head take over, then it all gets a bit jumbled up. Whereas if I just allow it to come out in the order that it comes out, it's just in the flow. But I do ask a lot of the time, does that make sense? Because I'm not always necessarily aware of what's coming out of my mouth. So it's whether people can follow the flow. But 9 times out of 10, people are like, yeah, that's amazing. Can you repeat what you just said? And I'm like, no. You're asking my head to kick in and I have no idea what I just said.
Yeah, that was intuitively channeled. That just came out of somewhere. I mean, now I don't record all my Zoom meetings, but they've just introduced the transcript.
Yes.
So I stick that on because it's merrily down the side. So if anyone now says, what did you say? I go, 1 moment. And then that's the transcript of what I just said. So that's very helpful. Yes. So anyway, let's wrap up our chat. Thank you for joining us. If you've watched, we'll be back soon with another one. Like we said at the beginning, this is our first Substack Unscripted, but there are, if you head over to YouTube, you can watch some previous ones. And thank you for joining us. And thanks, Sarah.
No, you're welcome. It's been fun.
And we'll be back soon.
See you soon.